Why so serious? I think it wouldn't hurt to be a little bit less serious, like every single day. Like, obviously, you want to accept the reality of certain situations that are going on, taking place in your life, and things that are surrounding us. It's very difficult to separate yourself from everything that's kind of been thrown at you, right? But what I want to do is implore people to actually bring a little bit of that silliness back. Like, have we forgot about a sense of humor? Have we forgot about what it is that means to be attractive to others? And I mean that from like the truest of your core being, right? Not because you're trying to impress other people, but because it's just a valuable trait. It's something that is very positive to just simply not forget what we're all about. For every serious thing that you're going to talk about, or everything, let's say, that you're going to complain about in a day, why don't you just try to find that balance, right? Balance that out. Remember what it is to be wholesome, to have a sense of humor, to have that little bit of a edge to you, that kind of will separate you from whoever else. Being serious about too much is just honestly fucking simply boring. Do you really want to be boring all of the time when it's just like you arguing about politics, or let's say you just going off about every serious thing that's happening in the world? Like, at some point there needs to be a balance that differentiates one thing from another, right? If you're too far into the spectrum going down that rabbit hole of negativity, that's not going to bring you any joy, right? You're just going to get lost. It's going to be that vicious cycle. Once again, you're going to be lost in that trap. Instead of being lost in that trap, why don't we bring back some of that silliness, some of that humor that we have? Like, do you even know yourself? Do you remember what it was or what it is to be funny, or to feel that fulfillment of somebody telling you a kick-ass joke, or for you to have that joy and smiling and laughing all the time? They say that the average person laughs about 13 times a day. I'd like to think that it's higher than that, but I'm sure that it's even lower than what they say. Are you aware, right? Are you aware of what it is that's holding you down, first and foremost, but also, are you aware of who you are? Of whether or not you've lost that edginess or that funniness that kind of kept you going, that gave you that motivation, that drive. For every serious thing that we take on, I implore you to find that balance, to bring back that excitement. I think it's in the best nature of our being, for every single one of us, to find that humor again, to bring back what it is that brought us life, For every serious thing that you're going to take on, what are the factors in your life that motivate you, right? What is it that drives you? Like, when you were 9 years old, what did you aspire to be? Were you sitting there focusing on the seriousness of every issue? I understand that, you're going through the process and you're growing and your brain hasn't fully developed yet, and there's all those different things that are causing that excitement. And when you get older, it's basically having the onus on yourself to be uplifted, to bring back that excitement. But in which case, where we don't, we get lost. This is where we take things for granted, right? Without any balance in our lives, we take a shift, but are we in tune or paying attention to that shift and whether it's making it for the worse and not the better? We're in control of this, Do we bring back life to our conversations, for example? Do we just small talk our way through everything from each day, the day-to-day life that we live? Ask yourself if you remember a specific time in your life, right? Maybe it was 7 years ago, maybe it was 10 years ago, maybe it was a week ago. Ask yourself these questions as to if you are better as a person and in a happier spot than you were mentally and emotionally and psychologically than you were before. Or have you taken a shift to the worse? If we are not reallocating our focus and our awareness to what's going on in our own lives with who we are, then we are going to be completely lost. To put it bluntly, we need to have something that shines a light in, like that nice little rainbow that kind of comes in, after the rain kind of pours on down. You could take that literally or metaphorically, honestly. Are we succeeding, like, for ourselves? Not success when it comes to business and the bigger picture that everybody is looking at. The true bigger picture is that of ourselves. If we can't hold on to and grow with that level of enthusiasm and excitement that we once had, then you are falling behind. We are falling behind. We are plateauing. We are going in a direction that's going to spiral out of control eventually, and for some, it kind of takes the course, right? Fulfillment should not be an option. This should be something that you're trying to achieve on a week-to-week basis. When you wake up in the morning, do you ask yourself what the purpose is of your day? Do you also ask what it is that you're trying to achieve in that day? And third, are we reigniting that spark that's within ourselves to actually have a happy day, to have an enjoyable time as we go through the process? Without finding humor in things, and without learning to laugh and fucking be happy with one another, and having that sort of connection socially, it can very well be the destruction of you in so many ways, in little ways where it kind of poison drips you. There's 2 ways that you can kill somebody. I learned this from Real Social Dynamics, actually. They had a very good analogy that was talking about basically, there's 2 ways that you can kill a person. The first way is you can kind of chop their head off. It's pretty obvious. It's like, boom, oh my God, shock value, like cut and dry. The second way is that you can poison drip them slowly and slowly and slowly over the process of time, where it's almost unnoticeable. But it is noticeable when you're taking a look from now and looking back, let's say 7 years from now, when you were happy, and seeing where those changes were applied and how it affected your life in a more positive or a more negative way. It seems like we've all been poison dripped through this process and lost track of ourselves and where we are going, right? We're always lost in that realm of worrying, that whole spectrum of the lack of understanding. We're trying to learn more, but we're learning more in the wrong areas. We're trying to always take things too seriously to the point where we're going to take it for granted, and it's at the discount of your mental health and of others. Like when you run into someone, at the grocery store, or a friend of yours that you're going to visit at work or anything like that, do you have that enthusiasm and that humor where you're just kind of going back and forth, and you just kind of, you do that whole thing where you like pinch each other's nipples, or you see a buddy or whatever, and you just kind of give him a fucking fake shot or whatever, where you're trying to like fake fight with them or whatever. I love doing stuff like that, right? Where it just kind of like it amps it up. It's like it's in that same spectrum of telling a joke, you know what I mean? But it's just in a more physical nature, but it's all lighthearted. It comes from a good place. It brings you up, it keeps you alive, and you wouldn't even realize it, but it actually provides more importance to your life than you would know on a day-to-day basis. The more you have these uplifting moments, and the more that you bring on that silliness, the more you're going to feel at least a slight amount of fulfillment. You'll be like reverse poison dropping, almost like in a better manner, right? Where you're kind of bringing your state up, you're elevating yourself, and those small interactions are more important than they seem. The old boring small talk, hey, how's it going stuff, versus like, the bros that you can kind of, or the ladies, the dudes or the ladies that you kind of get that excitement from. You see them, you give them a big hug, a high five. Obviously in this COVID world right now, it's, there's varying ways where we have to kind of readjust in how we conduct ourselves, like we have to stay far apart and whatnot. But in the overall idea of things, it's just better to provide that value to somebody else by bringing that joy, right? When somebody is really negative, and you don't even know that they're negative, but when they walk into the room, they have that it's complete aura of negativity, right? You can just feel the fucking energy fill the room, right? Wouldn't you want to be that opposite of where you're that energy that fills the room, but in a positive nature, right? When you show up, it's like, oh, party's getting started, right? This is going to be a good fucking time, right? You could just do that with day-to-day activities, right? Any little thing to kind of bring up the joy with other people is going to, you throw that vibe to them, it throws back to you, and you're going to bring up that level of joy regardless, right? And then tying in with the whole thing with the silliness and the jokes, it's like it can go from as simple as something as telling a joke to like pinching your friend and fucking fake fighting with them and stuff, just kind of goofing around, whatever it is that you do. When you're taking it from that approach, you're just simply bringing yourself back up. Maybe you needed it that day, or maybe they needed it that day. You didn't have that conversation saying, oh shit, things are terrible or whatever, but just in that very moment where you're just allowing someone to forget about that negative shit that is holding them down and pushing them back. If you can just push that out there in the situation, If you were to just throw that out there and just create that fucking magnifying positive vibe, it could work absolute wonders, like more than you would even imagine. The more and more you focus on this balance from day to day, and you take a little bit of that seriousness out, like, yeah, be educated on everything that's going on, be serious in your everyday, day-to-day life, take care, be accountable and responsible for the things and you need to take care of, whatever it is, your bills, your family, etc., right? But a lot of people, even in the relationships and the friendships, they lose so much value and you get disconnected, you know what I mean? And there's like this distance between you guys because you just simply lost that connection that you once had, that sort of flow and jive that you guys had with one another, where you could fucking bring the noise, bring the energy. How we carry ourselves in our body language and our tonality and like our facial expressions and just how we just hammered in there, it'll do so much more than you would ever understand. The lingering resonance from something like that is very, very key in keeping yourself and your emotional state grounded in a positive manner. We shouldn't be watering ourselves down with all this useless bullshit that we don't really care about, right? If it's something like the relationship where it's getting a little bit stale, you know what I mean? You're losing the course of who you were. Are you taking a look at yourself and your awareness of what it is that you might have done wrong, instead of pointing the blame and being like, oh, you know what? She was a bitch. Look what she did. No, it's not always about that. We got to take a step back. We got to look at ourselves and be like, have I lost that edginess? Have I lost that humor? Have I lost that caliber of funny that I once had, right? Am I fucking exciting enough? Am I embodying everything that is me in from the core of my happiness, of my being, right? And I understand we're not always going to be happy and we're not always going to have that thriving mentality. But this is more than that. It's not always so simple, but in this case, I would say it is. It's simply about finding that balance, like I've said a million times since I fucking repeat myself in these goddamn videos. Last video, I'm pretty sure I said the word trees like, goddamn it, like 600 times. Like, yeah, getting used to the video stuff on here, but I got a lot to say, you know, and I do know a lot about this stuff, you know. I have a lot of experience with this. If we can up the ante on the caliber of our being and bring back what it was that made us exciting, like if you remember what it was that your wife or fucking husband or girlfriend or boyfriend, what it was that made them love you, that made them excite you, and even if you were to ask them, you know, as just be a little bit humble about it and ask them, you might be surprised. You might be surprised. The truth does hurt, but you might be surprised and you could learn some things from what they might tell you. Are you creating a better vibe for other people and yourself? Or are you taking that vibe and crushing it into something negative? It's a whole string of things that we got to look at. So if we can find that balance and bring a little bit more enthusiasm, you know, reigniting that spark of what we once were that made us so fulfilling and so loving and make people look at us with the fucking sparkles in their eyes and made people look at us with that gloss in their eyes, that level of excitement, that the essence of what it was that brought us back up and put that brightness in our life. If we were able to address this and put it to the forefront, we will slowly discover that from day to day, the more you find and are in tune with yourself as a happy person, as someone who is just kind of really had that carefree mentality. It's not to actually be completely carefree, but that carefree balance where you're just joking and laughing. And like the whole simple thing, that quote is like, you know, like Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, right? Whatever happened to laughter? You know? Very small lyric in that song, but a very powerful meaning. Don't be dull. Don't be boring. Boring sucks, right? Anyone can be boring. It's easy to do, of course, right? It's a lot more difficult to be in tune with yourself all the time, and you're not going to be. But in bringing a little bit more light through who you were, like the virtue of that is just, it's endlessly positive. And it's going to do so much more for your mental health if you're just on point with that. Your love for other people and their love for you will only increase, and it won't dissipate when it comes to something like bringing that joy and feeding that vibe off of one another. Don't push yourself away. Don't push other people away. Embrace them. Bring back the person that you feel like you lost, right? But bring it in the manner of who you are today. You know, you've learned some things, you've grown in many areas. Now shed the other negative bullshit and regrow what it was that you feel you've lost that used to bring light to your life. For every serious thing that you tackle and you do and you think of and you talk about, let's add a little element of funny, right? Sometimes trolling is cool. Sometimes it's funny, you know, as long as it's not the expense of somebody else that's going to completely hurt their feelings and shit like that. But in the bigger spectrum of things, bring back that light of who you are. You want to dance? Dance. You want to sing? Sing. Be carefree. These are all small portions of the bigger element, which is to rekindle who we were and what it is that we once had that we lost. That somewhere along the way we fell off the tracks, and here we are. We're in a lot more depressive state. Those negative vibes, it's way easier to be angry and point blame at things instead of just take accountability. But it's also, you know, it's also not that hard as people would say to just fucking laugh a little bit more, you know? Even if you have to amp yourself up, you got to watch some stand-up comedy for 3 hours. You know, you got to take some vitamins or whatever. Go to the gym, whatever is going to keep your state of mind higher. But everyone's objective, obviously, is to be a happier person, to be a better person. Well, at least for most people, that I would hope. Let's metaphorically punch ourselves in the face and take a look back and see what we can do to brighten ourselves back up. Because the more joy that you bring yourself, the more joy you're going to bring other people. You want to tell that joke? Tell that fucking joke. You want to be ridiculous and silly? Go be ridiculous and silly. Nobody's stopping you. The only thing that's stopping you is you. But you're also stopping yourself from being exciting to other people. And it's not about appeasing what it is that makes you interesting to other people. It's about fulfilling yourself. Because nobody wants to be dull and boring, you know? But most people aren't even aware that they are. When you're creating new memories, do you really want to create new memories that are less fulfilling and so serious to the point where it doesn't set you apart from anything, and where you've lived the same way for the last 20 years and the people that surround you are becoming kind of bored or used to who you are, and it's like, oh, I remember back in the day he was so exciting, he wanted to do this, we're hitting it up with this party, we're doing this. It's like, yeah, you don't have to live that party lifestyle, but it's like who you are as a person, and how you're embodying that energy will have an effect on everything around you. So try to do yourself a favor, look out for yourself, be a little bit more kind, a lot more kind, and of course just bring back that fucking spark, the fuel to the fire that made you so entertaining, so exhilarating, you know? Like everyone's got their ways, you know. Some people are more reserved, obviously. Some people are more in your face and outgoing and everything like that. But everyone in this world is going to remember a time where they were happier, where they were more fulfilled and they were more fucking lit up to be the fullest version of themselves. Let's find that balance, bring back that joy, and bring back that humor. Instead of being lost, let's get found. But yeah, let's touch on it more in the next video here, or in one of the other ones in the future. But I hope you guys stay real, and I'll stay caveman.